In 2024, Kylian Mbappé finally got the move he had been dreaming about since he was a kid. Real Madrid, the white shirt, the Bernabeu, the club of Zidane, Cristiano, Di Stefano, and Champions League immortality. For years, the football world treated this transfer like destiny delayed. Mbappé to Madrid was not supposed to be a signing. It was supposed to be a coronation. But football has a cruel way of exposing the difference between a dream and a structure. Because the moment Mbappé left Paris, something strange happened. PSG did not collapse. They became more complete. The club that had spent years chasing the Champions League around superstar power suddenly looked more balanced without the biggest superstar in its history. And that is where Luis Enrique's warning starts to feel less like coaching and more like prophecy. Because Enrique was never questioning Mbappe's talent. That would have been ridiculous. He was questioning something deeper, not whether Mbappé could score, not whether he could run faster than defenders, not whether he could decide a game with one cold finish. The real question was this: could a team built around Mbappé ever become bigger than Mbappé? Luis Enrique saw the problem before most people wanted to admit it. During his time at PSG, cameras captured him challenging Mbappé in a way few managers had dared to do publicly. He did not talk to him like a fan. He did not worship the talent. He spoke to him like a coach trying to save the future of a team. The message was simple. The greatest players do not only lead when they have the ball. They lead when they lose it. They defend. They press. They sacrifice. They set the emotional temperature for everybody else. Luis Enrique even used Michael Jordan as the example. Not because Jordan was great at scoring, but because Jordan demanded greatness in every phase of the game. That was the hidden warning. Mbappé had already mastered the glamorous part of football: the sprint, the finish, the celebration, the headline. But Luis Enrique was asking for the part that does not fit in a highlight reel: the recovery run, the defensive angle, the pressure after losing possession, the humility to make a teammate's job easier. And at the time, most people heard it as a manager being demanding. But maybe it was something more. Maybe Luis Enrique was telling football that individual brilliance had a ceiling if it did not come with collective responsibility. To understand why this warning mattered, you have to understand how special Mbappé was. At Monaco, he was not just another young talent. He was an event. In the 2016-17 season, Monaco won Ligue 1 and reached the Champions League semi-finals with a team that played fearless, vertical, explosive football. Mbappé was still a teenager, but he already looked like he was moving at a different frame rate from everyone else. Against Manchester City, against Borussia Dortmund, against elite defenders who thought they understood speed, he made the pitch feel too small. Then came PSG. Then came the World Cup. In 2018, Mbappé scored in the World Cup final against Croatia and became the first teenager since Pelé to score in a men's World Cup final. That is not hype, that is history. By the time he returned to Paris, he was no longer just a French prodigy. He was the face of the next era, and for years, the numbers protected him. Goals, golden boots, trophies, records. At PSG, Mbappé became the club's all-time leading scorer. He won league titles, domestic cups, individual awards, and delivered knockout goals in the Champions League. But this is where football becomes complicated, because sometimes numbers do not lie, but they can hide the deeper truth. Mbappé was producing like a superstar, yet PSG still felt incomplete. They could win France, they could dominate weeks, they could create viral moments. But in Europe, when structure, suffering, pressing, and collective discipline became unavoidable, something always cracked. The world thought PSG's problem was simple. They did not have enough stars, so they added more. Neymar, Messi, Mbappe, 3 names so big that the team almost became a marketing campaign before it became a football system. But the real problem was not a lack of talent. The real problem was balance. People thought PSG needed more magic. Luis Enrique understood they needed more sacrifice. That is the misunderstanding at the center of Mbappe's club career. Fans saw the goals and thought the team had been saved, but managers saw the spaces left behind. When a forward does not press, the midfielder has to cover more ground. When the first line of pressure breaks, defenders get exposed earlier. When one superstar is allowed to live outside the collective rules, everyone else has to bend around him. And when a team bends for too long, eventually it stops being a team. This was not about laziness. It was about gravity. Mbappe was so powerful, so fast, so decisive, that every club around him was tempted to make him the center of everything. But the center of everything can also become the weight that pulls everything inward. That is what Luis Enrique seemed to understand. Football did not misunderstand Mbappe's talent. It misunderstood his burden. Because when you are treated as the chosen one for long enough, the hardest thing in the world is learning how to be one part of 11. Then came the twist that changed the entire story. Mbappe left PSG for Real Madrid in 2024, and PSG, the club that was supposed to fall apart, started looking like a true Luis Enrique team. Less celebrity, more movement, less waiting, more pressing, less dependence on one man, more responsibility shared across the pitch. That did not erase Mbappe's greatness, but it revealed what PSG had been missing. A team does not only need a player who can decide the final action, it needs players who are willing to suffer before that final action even exists. And while Mbappe began his Madrid story under the biggest spotlight in world football, PSG kept evolving. The cruelest part is that both stories could be true at the same time. Mbappe could still be one of the most dangerous attackers alive, and Luis Enrique could still have been right. Because the question was never whether Mbappe could score for Real Madrid. Of course he could. The question was whether his arrival would make Madrid more complete. That is the standard at Real Madrid. Not highlights, not reputation, not shirts sold, only history. And history in Madrid is written in Champions Leagues. Meanwhile, Luis Enrique's PSG became a case study in what happens when a team stops orbiting one superstar and starts moving as one organism. When every forward presses, when every midfielder trusts the line ahead of him, when the manager's authority becomes bigger than the player's brand. That is the truth revealed. Luis Enrique was not trying to embarrass Mbappe. He was trying to warn him. The next level of greatness would not be found in another sprint. It would be found in responsibility. Maybe this story was never about whether Mbappe was overrated. He is not. Maybe it was never about whether PSG were better because he left. That is too simple. Maybe the real story is about the price of building football around one man. Mbappe gave PSG unforgettable moments. He gave France a World Cup. He gave Real Madrid a superstar they had chased for years. But Luis Enrique saw the part that trophies, goals, and transfer announcements could not fully explain. Greatness is not only what you do when the ball arrives. Greatness is what your team becomes when the ball leaves you. That is why the warning matters. Because in modern football, talent can make you famous, goals can make you rich, speed can make you feared, but sacrifice is what makes a team believe. And maybe that is the final lesson Luis Enrique understood before everyone else. Mbappe was not missing ability. He was missing the final piece of leadership, the piece that does not trend, the piece that does not appear on a poster, the piece that only shows itself when the game gets ugly, the stadium gets loud, and the team needs its best player to suffer first. So the question now is not whether Mbappe can still become the face of Madrid. The question is whether he can become the kind of leader Luis Enrique was trying to create in Paris. Because football already knows he can score. Now it is waiting to see if he can carry. And if you want to understand another superstar whose talent was never the problem, but whose burden changed everything, watch the next story. Because sometimes football does not destroy great players by doubting them. Sometimes it destroys them by believing in them too much.